I'm a professional artist. In 2018, I'm getting ready for an anticipated 50-year retrospective exhibition of my visual art. In September of that year, my husband A.R.T and I have moved out of our home that we lived in for 26 years and moved into our newly purchased house. We've been in the new house for a few weeks. It's a cream-colored colonial antique house set on a large piece of green property in a vibrant seaside neighborhood. I walk through the kitchen and open the door to the basement. I immediately smell an unusual sharpness in the air. A combination of what smells like wet paper pulp and something dank. Bile rises in my stomach as I walk down the gray wooden stairs. My knees buckle as I see 50 years of my fine art floating, tattered, and destroyed in the brown flood water. The air is knocked out of my lungs, and I gasp, oh my God, what happened? Along with most of southern Connecticut, we'd had days of severe rainstorms, with rainfall totals of 4 to 8 inches, and the rain falling in 3 to 4 hour spurts. We'd moved into our new house. We were living out of boxes. Both of us are working full-time. We've attended our niece's wedding in New York City. Our college-age son, Aaron, visits us briefly for his cousin's wedding. Life is full. My husband leaves on a business trip to Canada. No one has set foot in the basement because we didn't know we needed to. Even though I drive through deep flood waters on local streets on my way home from work, and there are flash flood reports all across southern Connecticut, my mind is on other priorities. Checking the basement is not one of them. It's not on anybody's radar. We learn later, the flood water over a few days seeped underground from our large backyard and came up under the basement floor. And boxes of artwork, supplies, and cherished memorabilias and portfolios for days had been in that standing water silently, wicking it up. I was planning a retrospective art show of 50 years of my original and unique fine art. My heart feels like it's been run over by a truck. I'm breathless. To my shock, I see all of my portfolios of photographs, paintings, etchings, and drawings, soggy, soaking up water. Wet cardboard boxes filled with art paraphernalia and memorabilia bulge out from weakened wet side seams. We'd packed cherished mementos from our son's preschool days and treasured family photographs in cardboard boxes. Again, in the move, we quickly put them on the basement floor to unpack at a later date. Today's sermon is titled Art, A.R.T, Action, Reflection, Transformation. I'll start with A for action, but first a poem by Kate Louise Wheeler. Action is the golden key that unlocks doors to set us free, through which the trusting heart that sings shall find its way to better things. One of my coping skills when dealing with crisis is to act. My husband Arnie is just back from Canada and he's at his job a half an hour away. When I see the flood, I jump into action alone. I immediately splash through the receding flood water to assess the situation and see if there's anything I can salvage. Standing there with wet feet, I call Arnie at work, tell him what happened, and he heads home immediately. I slosh through water, and my left hand steadies my right hand, and my smartphone is in my right hand, and I rapidly take pictures of the devastation. But I'm not really taking general pictures of the flood. I want to capture close-ups of my artwork, close-ups of any cherished photos. I have a very strong feeling about this. My instinct and my impulse are visceral. I don't think about it, I just act. Original life-size charcoal figure drawings on newsprint paper have wet ridges like waves of sand on an outgoing tide. My personal narrative, brightly colored paintings on stretched canvas are stained with horizontal dark brown watermarks that show how high the water came, but then it goes higher because the canvas and the paper over days silently kept on waking it up. Big brushstroke abstract paintings of flowers, similar to the ones that have graced my collectors' homes and offices for years, are destroyed. Self-portrait black and white photographs of me from my days as a young artist, exploring my identity, my gender, my relationships, and self-acceptance, all gone. As an exhibiting artist, when I was in my 20s, I worked in self-portraits using a single lens reflex Nichromat film camera. Living alone at the time in a fabulous rented apartment, my landlady allowed me to set up a photography darkroom in the dry basement of the apartment. I developed all my own film and did all my own photo processing myself in my darkroom in that former dry basement. The art photographs were of me. I was footloose and fancy free. I was the femme fatale woman artist known as Adair Wilson, before I became the adventurous wife and sensitive mother known as Adair Heitman. Some of my early images were playful, others serious, others thought-provoking. My loss is devastating, it's personal. It's not like a landscape painting I can replicate. These are irreplaceable. Our son's preschool notebooks of his dictated poems and writings with accompanying photographs that his teachers took of him in action are still damp and mottled. These aren't posed school pictures. These are candid images of our curious son, Aaron, looking full of wonder. The photographic colors blend in a psychedelic kaleidoscope with melted and torn pieces of bright white paper permanently now fused, overlapping parts of his unguarded, sincere portraits. I run upstairs to the kitchen to retrieve string and clothespins. I will rapidly create makeshift clotheslines in the basement and hang to dry what I can salvage. Coming back down the basement stairs, halfway down, my knees give way. I drop down on the hard step, and I sit and I sob. I wail. I moan. I scream gut-wrenching groans. Not only as part of my livelihood as a working artist, but my past, my identity, and tangible examples of our son's past, all gone. I can't recreate what was lost to the flood. It's not like a piece of furniture that I can replace. These are unique to my soul. And yet, I have to clean up from the flood's destruction. My husband A.R.T comes home. Together we slog through the clammy basement waters with our floating cherished remains. He quickly takes water-stained artworks out of their now warped frames to see if anything is salvageable. I hang images on clotheslines to dry. We work as a team, using one of our coping skills, humor. We use our wits to muddle through. By seeing absurdity in the ruins, we protect ourselves from feeling vulnerable. Spotting the funny side helps us manage. Jesting helps me think I'm in control. We used humor that day to propel us to action. However, I can't recall what we said or what we did. Part of our strength as a couple is to see humor in the oddest places, and boy, was this an odd one. Manifesting my action self was akin to embodying my artist self. During this traumatic experience, I go to a place of strength inside me, one of creating art. The physical actions of my taking pictures on my smartphone and of my artwork and color photographs of our son Aaron morphing before my eyes was chilling, yet therapeutic. It's as if I'm in a parallel universe, witnessing personal and professional devastation while simultaneously knowing in my core something big is happening here. And I need to pay attention. With anguish, I throw out 50 years worth of now unusable art supplies, fine art Japanese rice papers, colorful mat boards, French watercolor paper pads are all gone. My favorite large black portfolios made out of leather that I've had since college with their entire contents gone. For decades, I carted my paintings, drawings, photographs, and prints to galleries and exhibitions in New England and New York City in those portfolios. This brings me to the R in art reflection. If you haven't noticed, I am a deep thinker. Thinking deeply is natural for me. It can be painful at times and can shatter impressions of myself. Deep thinking also brings me insight, inspiration, and acceptance. American author, psychotherapist, and motivational speaker Richard Carlson said, "Reflection is one of the most underused, yet powerful tools for success." Reflection didn't come right away. But like the floodwaters seeping up and into my art, deep thinking seeped into my awareness, usually while I was walking in nature, doing the dishes, or while I was meditating. I came to realize I'd been spending much of my time and energy serving others, working full-time to help put our son through college, caring for my aging mother, editing, sifting, and packing the contents of our former beloved house that we'd lived in for 26 years. Time passes, we persevere, and I begin to see miracles every day. When we moved into our new house, we labeled boxes for the movers: attic, basement, living room, kitchen. By mistake or by providence, some of my original art was not destroyed in the flood. Because it was supposed to go into the basement, but it never made it into the basement. Miracles happen, like discovering photographs in the attic in a box clearly labeled basement. Finding art in boxes not labeled art. The universe keeps delighting me with surprise finds, and in doing so, I discover former aspects of myself and my identity. Upon reflection, I realize how fortunate I am. We're alive. Our family is safe. There's a roof over our heads. There's food in our kitchen. We have jobs, can attend college. And we have the love of each other. Family, friends, and bounty. This gut-wrenching loss is personal, yet in the big picture of life, we are okay. Now we'll share the tea in art transformation. I'll start with a quote by Canadian writer Robin Sharma. Yes, your transformation will be hard. Yes, you will feel frightened, messed up, and knocked down. Yes, you'll want to stop. Yes, it's the best work you'll ever do. Back in the basement, over the next days, weeks, and months, we continue to clean up. We're among thousands of people just like us with flooded basements in southern Connecticut during September 2018. We borrow equipment from a friend, and Arnie pumps out the remaining water himself. He sets up fans to dry, and he takes things to the dump. It will be months before professional cleanup crews can get to our house. Over time, I see a new blueprint of self-acceptance. With the flood, the great architect in the sky showed me a new appreciation of myself and my self-worth. Some of my artworks that survived the flood were considered too ahead of their time in 1978 for the art galleries in Greenwich, Connecticut that exhibited and sold my work. 44 years later, one of those paintings was selected for an exhibition in Bridgeport, Connecticut. This is profoundly eye-opening. I've been my own worst critic of myself and my art. Images that I didn't think were good enough survive the flood and are selected into exhibitions. to have what I believe is divine intervention revealed to me, I am good enough, is redemptive. When I learned a new art clay monotype technique back in 2013, my teacher said the prints were archival, they would last a lifetime. He told us the technique is like the Lascaux cave paintings discovered in France 17,000 years ago. The prints are made from clay and pigments printed on synthetic paper. I thought it was an interesting anecdotal teaching story. He was right. My prints survived the flood. I found them floating in their thin cardboard portfolios and hung them on my makeshift clothesline to dry. One new body of artwork that I'm working on now is called the Gem Overlay series. I'm using monotypes that survived the flood and cutting sections out of one and adhering that to a different monotype to create something totally new. I'm reusing what I have and reinventing. One of my new monotypes from that series is called Feather Light, and that's on the easel. And that was recently selected to be in an exhibition in New Canaan, Connecticut. And another one from that series was recently selected to be in an exhibition in London this summer. Before the flood, I thought I was in charge of my art and my life and my work. I had the impression I was steering the boat. After the flood, I surrender to the knowledge that something else is steering the boat and I have to yield to its power. I believe there is a great mystery far bigger than me, and this understanding helps me cope with and accept that change is afoot. During our last move, I realized I was done carting around my year's worth of art supplies and artwork. It had become cumbersome and costly. The size of any home had to include the 4 S's. Sizable studio storage space. The loss of so much of my art was devastating, yet I started to wonder, am I supposed to be doing something else creatively? Maybe a 50-year retrospective art show isn't my crowning glory. A second new body of artwork that I'm creating is from my smartphone. In the flood, I acted and took photographs in the moment. Now I'm taking fine art photographs using my phone as a camera without setups, without filters, and without editing. Experiencing firsthand how transitory life can be, I'm now capturing fleeting moments of beauty around me from my everyday life. The photographs can be fleshy, pale pink peonies in a cobalt blue vase, or moody chiaroscuro shadow and light on an autumn floral bouquet. I recently submitted those 2 images to a show in Vermont. Stay tuned. You might ask, how do I reconcile all this? I'm a totally different artist and person than I was 4 years ago. I can't recreate my art, but I can create myself anew. Part of my transformation is sharing this story with you, using words, not brushstrokes. Since a child, writing has been a part of my life, personally and professionally. With the loss of so much of my fine art, I've re-energized my engagement with writing. I can store my personal narratives, essays, and poems on my laptop. Big studio storage space isn't necessary. Recently, one of my true stories was selected for and published in a book by Dr. Stephen Farmer, Animals, Personal Tales of Encounters with Spirit Animals. In September 2018, after I stood up from screaming and sobbing on our basement steps, I was given a message I heard deep and crystal clear in my heart and in my mind. The message said, you are to create something out of this, and it will be called watermarked. In an instant, I understood all the puns, double entendre, and plays on words. That message has been my talisman and my guide. It fuels my ongoing innovative projects. You might ask, don't I miss making art the way I used to? Of course I do. I sometimes miss it fiercely. I mostly miss the smells and the sounds. I miss the smells of linseed oil in printmaking ink, and I miss the sticky sound the ink makes on the printmaking roller. Yet, the sweet smell of success, creating, writing, and sharing a story on stage or published in a book is abundantly gratifying. Recently, I've been applying to art and writing residencies across the country and abroad to work on a complex project called Watermarked. It will combine words and pictures, digital photography, video essays, and printed images. The project will use some of the photographs I took in the basement 4 years ago, during the floods, destruction, and metamorphosis. There are several watermarked projects to come: book arts, media arts, essays, poems, stories, and sermons. This is how I ended up being here with you today. This is how I became a storyteller. Watermarked me. It reconnected me with my purpose and my value.